Go, 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 go. I'm alright. They hate us, so want them to love us like they love Pat. But holla in the lab, the text, will tell you I'm loco. The plan is to spin these samples in a circle. What up, Z-Pack? It's your boy, Z-Dog MD. Check it out. We're live and direct out of Studio Z. Oh, man, there's a lot to talk about. Did we not generate a lot of interesting interaction yesterday with Against Medical Advice, episode 4 about Obamacare and is healthcare a right or a privilege? Something like 46,000 views, 1,700 comments, and an amount of butthurt that even shocked me. And I am used to butthurt, people. And you know why there was butthurt? Because, well, I'll tell you why. Because I told Tom before we started, Tom Heineber, right? Can we see Tom? Look at him. Look at him, people, okay? Now look at me. Now look at Tom. Now look at me. All right. I told Tom said, you know, I don't know a lot about Obamacare. I had Obamacare insurance for a while. It was difficult to get seen in a timely way in Las Vegas. A lot of the providers didn't take the insurance, et cetera. What do you want me to do? Because I'm not an expert in this. And I said, you know what? I want you to put the devil back in devil's advocate. Whatever I do, I want you to push me back, and we're just gonna have a conversation. And you know what? He did exactly that. And what did you guys do? You took a crap on him, okay?
Which was founded.
It kind of was founded because he was being a grade A butthole, but guys, the amount of ad hominem attacks on Tom, like, Tom, you're a privileged bastard, and you know, don't be such an a-hole, Tom, and this guy should shut the F up, and so on. Guys, if you can't even hear an opinion that actually happens to be held by a lot of people in this country, whether you agree with it or not, and you can't have a rational discussion about it, and many people did, then this probably isn't the show for you, son. Okay? You guys were kind of mean to Tom, and all he was doing was what I asked him to do, which was be devil's advocate. If anything, okay, what I should have done is I should have proposed I should have kind of stamped it down a bit, but I didn't, so that was my fault. But the truth is, what did we accomplish doing that? We had a conversation that brought us to number 15 on the top science and medicine podcasts on iTunes.
By the way, that's all you, Z-Pack, and thank you so much for all your reviews. Everything really helps on iTunes, so thank you.
Tom is being so nice, and I just want to punch the Z-Pack in the face right now. Because
know what? I'm already bored about yesterday's conversation. Let's get into fat shaming, because that's the topic at hand, and a lot of people are tuning in wanting to hear about your thoughts on that.
Listen, speaking of fat shaming, you guys were Tom shaming.
That's right. A lot of people fat shamed me yesterday, Z, because I was drinking a Diet Coke, and they were like, Tom, you're fat. And I was like, I know.
Tom is not fat, okay? He's mild. He has a slightly elevated BMI, all right? And the truth is, actually, Tom was advocating that in America you can be fat if you want to, and there shouldn't be a sin tax, and you should be allowed to do what you want.
I will say that one before we get into the fat shaming thing. I was trying to say that sin taxes are not okay. I did a poor job speaking yesterday, and I think you should be allowed to be fat in America. It's your right.
And I want to unpack this a little bit more, because this gets to the heart of the discourse that we're trying to have on this show. Now, Against Medical Advice, I think we did it wrong for AMA, which is a more formal show. And it's funny, Tom, isn't it funny, like, we wear suits that day?
Dude, because I was wearing a suit and I'm a white male, people were like, oh, I've seen this archetype before. Dislike. I was like, I never wear a suit. Z made me wear it.
Dude, if you guys knew Tom, like, to call him a privilege, like, really, if you really knew Tom, you'd realize what he's had to overcome. You would be like, oh, dude, I'm sorry for calling you privileged. But there were people writing comments like, Tom's, evil, unempathic, uncaring comments are the result of privilege. So what you've done, Mr. A-hole, is you've just judged Tom because he's white and wearing a suit. Like, are you kidding me? Come on, dude.
Yeah, Susan Cook says, Tom's just fluffy. This is called the dad bod, okay? Ladies love it, y'all.
They do.
Is this a dad bod right here? Is that a dad bod? Because I'm a dad too.
Let's I want to play this clip for you that you haven't seen. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I don't think you've seen it. It's this woman. Her name is Shauna Arocho. I probably mispronounced her last name. But let's just play the clip and let you see.
Let me listen to this.
It went viral on Facebook, so people have probably seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Today is free ice cream day at Dairy Queen, if you haven't heard. If you haven't heard, you probably live under a rock because it's everywhere on Facebook. I've been eating mostly paleo since June of last year. I've lost like 60 pounds since starting, but 120 pounds overall. It's really hard sometimes, giving up sweets, giving up all this kind of stuff that you just love to eat, but it's so bad for you. I have a long way to go in my weight loss journey, but I've been encouraged by losing over 40 pounds just this year since January 9th. So I decided to treat myself to a free ice cream cone. Me and my husband went to the Dairy Queen in Springfield, Illinois. I decided to sit outside because it was really warm out today, even though it's not very sunny. And as I'm sitting out there enjoying my ice cream cone, a car full of men stop in the middle of a busy road just so they can roll down their window and say, "Eat that ice cream, you fat bitch." And I just don't understand what people get out of tearing other people down. You know nothing about my life or my circumstances. What if I had been in such a place that you saying that to me had made me go home and kill myself? I'm not in that place, but I could have been. What do you get out of making me cry for the last 15 or 20 minutes? I finally calmed down enough to make a video, and I'm only doing it because I think that sharing this kind of thing is important. Because what do you get out of it? What fun is it for you to make fun of somebody else? You don't know their circumstances. You don't know them. And I just don't understand it. And I think people really need to start thinking about what they're saying and what they're doing before they do it. And that's it. I don't hold any grudges against them. I pray for them. And I just really hope that maybe they'll see this. So that's it.
That's hard to watch, dude.
Okay, first of all, isn't Shauna like the sweetest?
She's so
I like
sweet.
when she spelled bitch. She was like,
She's
they
like,
call me a
bitch. It's funny. That affects me directly because I mean, I struggled with weight when I was young, but my brother struggled with it a lot more. Like, he was morbidly obese as a kid, and I mean, in many ways, I was complicit in being a bully to my own brother. I can't believe this is affecting me like this. Sorry. But it's funny, that triggered like this memory of me just being the nastiest big brother to my little brother. Dude, next time you're showing me these clips before I go live, Tom.
I'm sorry, are you okay?
You can't do that to me. Like,
What did you do to your little brother that was so bad that you're feeling bad right now?
I think it's bringing back the memories of, like, I really did treat him exactly how this girl was saying she was treated. Like, it's a way of making ourselves feel better about ourselves by lashing out at others and being a bully, and we're all guilty of it from time to time. But that later on, he struggled, he controlled his weight. Now he's like a normal BMI and he's successful and all of that. But that was no thanks to me shaming him as a brother. Like, I was supposed to be better than that. I'm his family, right? So imagine how we're treating strangers if I'm treating my family like that as a kid. And I struggled with it myself. So this is
Do you think that's why you were mean to your brother? Because you saw yourself in him, and maybe you had something from the outside world that... So maybe it was a protective instinct and it wasn't you being just a dick to your little brother.
I mean...
Did you have that from the outside world? Did they bully you?
Constantly. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember, and I use it in some of my comedy now, right? Because it's like, I always say, like, I had childhood obesity before it was cool, like in the 70s. Like, I was so ahead of the curve that I was chubby in the 70s when hardly anybody was, and now almost all our kids are somewhat overweight. But I remember I had a lunchbox, and my mom would pack 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for me and a dessert. And that was my lunch, and I was like, 6. And it was these big sandwiches. And I remember I was walking off the bus, and I tripped down the stairs, and like the lunchbox breaks open, and these sandwiches come tumbling out. And I remember this girl like looks at me, and she's like, "Oh my God," like with a look of disgust, right? Like, you would eat 2 sandwiches and you're like a tiny little kid. And I never will forget that feeling of, it's shame is what it is, right? It's a feeling of like just fundamental shame. And so when I saw I think you're right, when I saw my brother, I would be like, this is me hating myself, like trying to do something to get him to change, which wasn't the right thing.
And are those sandwiches, are those a connection to mom? I mean, like, you know, sometimes like when you're a kid, you're just thinking all day like, this is hard. I don't know what I'm doing. People don't like me. And then you're just thinking like, I'm gonna get to the middle of the day and I have this perfect peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I like it so much, mom made me 2 of them.
Right.
I'm gonna eat the shit out of these.
Yeah, no.
When I get to lunch.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. To this day, I have a relationship with food where it's a comfort. It's like a maternal embrace when I'm feeling bad, right? And I think this gets to the heart of it. God, I'm amazed I had that reaction actually.
Well, I should have played you the clip beforehand. I'm sorry.
Well,
but it's your honest reaction.
It's
I really didn't play this for Zubin or anything, so.
I mean, we talk about the elephant and the rider metaphor, that we have this unconscious elephant that really determines our actions. And sometimes when you show it something, it triggers it in a way. And you know, honestly, Tom, do you think that part of the reason you had such a visceral response from a lot of commenters yesterday is that we triggered their elephant in some unconscious thing where they felt very, you know, upset by this idea that you would say that people should take this degree of accountability and their children should.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
totally. It's triggering me right now that you're calling them commoners like you're the king.
You say the price of my drugs. So back, I'm going to compose myself. Back to the lecture at hand. We all have our baggage, right? And so when we talk about this idea of fat shaming, the clip was a great clip because it triggers all this stuff. And the idea is that people are doing the best. They're living their story. They have their own baggage. They're trying to get through. As healthcare professionals, how do we manage this and how do we deal with this idea of fat shaming? Is it fat shaming to talk to somebody in a visit and say, you know, I can see you're very overweight and this must be hard and it's gonna be the main thing that's causing your knee pain, that's gonna require the knee arthroscopy and replacement, and it's gonna be the thing that triggers the heart attack, and it's what's driving your diabetes, and it may be what's promoting the depression, although sometimes the depression is what's promoting the weight gain. And can we have that honest discussion and understand that it comes from a place of mild vulnerability, right?
I think there are instances in our society where this really works, this shame-based tactic, like in the military, you know, because you have to be accountable to each other and death is on the line at every turn, right?
Right.
But I don't know if it works when somebody is at a Dairy Queen.
I mean, I think this is all, there's no white and black answer. Why don't we read some comments, because I've been, you know, Lawrence Harris says that's not shaming, where you have this conversation. Right. Now, what is shaming though? So where is the line in versus shaming versus having an honest conversation? How many people have untreated mental issues that people self-medicate with food? Lori Ferguson. I mean, it's part of, food releases dopamine. It's a drug in a way, right? Not only that, but a lot of like, the reason I had a more of emotional reaction to this lady's video too is that I know that type of patient. They've had trauma, they've been abused, a lot of stuff happens that you don't see that's under the surface in their elephant, and you only see the tip on the surface eating an ice cream cone, right? And I think that's why in particular obesity triggers this emotional response in me, because I saw it in myself. I saw it, my mother struggled with weight, my brother, like I mentioned, right? I don't know how my sister got away with being rail thin. It's not fair.
When you shame people too, like if people know that they look outwardly obese, they want to eat in secret and they don't want to let you see them eating like that because they know that you're judging them.
Yeah.
Right?
No, exactly.
Like, whereas I can parade down the street just 20 pounds over the weight, like eating a McFlurry. I know I mention McFlurries every day on this show, but it's kind of my thing.
It's your thing, dude. Like, I've seen you go through the drive-thru, you're like, should I get the, yeah, I'm gonna get the McFlurry.
Like, snack size? No, full size, no, thank you.
Full size McFlurry. Let's read a comment here. How is worrying about a patient's weight in a medical way a shaming tactic, Ralph Stewart? So Ralph, there was actually, when I was, and I went on the show The Doctors, and you can see it on my website. and I agreed to do it because they said, you can be yourself, you can talk about Health 3.0, and I did. But they corralled me when I was there. They said, I want you to stay because we really like what you're doing. Stay and for these multiple clips that we're doing. And one of them was a doctor who refused to discuss obesity in her visits because she felt like it was a kind of shaming, and she would take a long time to get to the point. And she said because telling people they're fat, doing all this thing, doesn't help them, it doesn't motivate them. And you should watch the clip because I'm not doing it justice, the interaction. And you know, so this is actually a feeling in some circles. Now, my feeling is that authenticity and openness and a caregiver showing vulnerability. Actually, I increasingly don't like the word provider. I like practitioner because we all practice medicine in some form, even administrators in some way, right? But this idea that we can show some degree of openness and vulnerability in the interaction can actually help people open up. So I don't know, it's a very nuanced thing. Let's read some comments.
I got a great one here from Erica Hawkins, who says that shaming is when you do it to hurt and leave them hurting. You take something away from them. We need to be careful not to do that. Educate, empower, not shame and scold. And that is always a weakness in the other person, that you want to dominate somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's well, is it a domination? Is it a projection of your own insecurity? Is it, there's a lot of different reasons people shame. I've been guilty of this, like, 'cause sometimes I can use this platform to ridicule people that I think are doing harm in the world, like anybody from Dr. Oz to anti-vaxxers to Cleveland Clinic doc who writes an anti-vax screed to, you know, dumb politicians to whatever. And the thing is, you know, these are public figures and you're criticizing them, you're using satire, but when it gets personal, it becomes difficult. And then is it a manifestation? We have to check ourselves all the time, look at what our first draft is, see why we're behaving the way we are. Let's see what we got here.
I think the thing about the truth is also that it never really sets anyone free, because everybody already kind of knows the truth, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of do. The question is, do they want someone to kind of pussyfoot around the truth, or do they want them to attack it head on and just be like, dude, come on, like, let's have this out and let's talk about it? Because if we don't, in a way that, you know, because, you know, there's some obese people who say, I know I'm obese, you don't have to tell me. And there are many who will say, and I've seen this feedback even on this forum, who will say, no, you actually, if you don't confront me about it, I'm not going to be as motivated to change. I need someone who I think cares about me, who's telling me honest truth without sugarcoating anything, but is also going to give me the tools to make it better. Maybe we should talk about some of those tools.
What are some of those tools?
I mean, I'll tell you, let me read one more comment here before we go to that.
Jeff Morris says, this is making me hungry. Me too, Jeff.
Jeff Morris says,
Me too.
McFlurry during discussion on obesity. Good for you, Jeff Morris. I love it. Diane Harris says, I've struggled with my weight all my life, so did my mother, and so did my grandmother. I finally realized I should ask a skinny person, or at least tell them that I need to gain 80 pounds, tell them that they need to gain 80 pounds and keep it on and watch the look on their face. In my opinion, it's the last thing that people can be rude about. We can't be racist. We can't be just all these other things, so let's be fat shaming. So Diane's point is, we can still, shaming fat people is the last great bastion of horribly discriminatory behavior that is socially acceptable. I would argue that's not true. It's doing Indian accents. People can still, like, oh, I'm a poo, welcome to my 7-Eleven. People can still do that and get away with it.
That is not true. You can do that because you're Indian. I can't do that.
Why are you calling me Indian only? I'm not telling you. Are you saying that, are you brown shaming me? Because I won't be shamed, okay?
How much of, I'd like to know, how much of it is actually a medical problem, glandular, thyroid, something like that, and how much of it is just too many calories and not enough exercise?
Well, I mean, in the end, it's an energy in, energy out, ultimately, but there are medical processes that modulate your metabolism and also your hunger, and also whether you use food as a coping mechanism, as a psychiatric treatment, etc. So it's multifactorial, it's nuanced, and people who work in the obesity fit space, i.e. every primary care physician, right, every surgeon, they see this nuance, and that's what makes it very, very difficult. Now, one thing I will say is I'm a firm believer that what you eat is a huge component of weight loss. It's like 90%, and then exercise and other behaviors are the rest.
But it's getting so complicated because they're saying, you know, whole food plant-based diet, which I think we can all agree is great, but then there are different whole food plant-based things that are better for different body types, and we don't really know what those are. You just have to, it's just all experimentation to figure it out.
Well, I mean, I think what you said is, what the key point that you said is that it's individual. So anytime someone tries to sell you a diet book that's a one-size-fits-all, you're going to fail because everybody's genetics, aptitudes, psychology is different.
Dude, I ran across a book in Goodwill the other day that was called The Sugar Solution. And it was about how eating sugar is the key to good health.
So you know what? You know what's crazy?
It was from the 1970s.
There's
or something.
probably 5% of people who would respond to sugar in a hypermetabolic way and would actually lose weight. So is it true for that 5%? Sure. Was the author probably one of those 5%? Yeah. Is he extrapolating to the whole population like an idiot? Probably. Did he sell a ton of books? Yeah, because people want to hear that sugar is good for you, right? But here's my evolving take. Whole food, like you said, mostly plants if you can, avoiding processed food where sugar and fat hides, including not great fats, right? Low quality saturated fats. Now there are saturated fats that can be higher quality. So it's really about your particular genetics, eating whole food, moderate exercise that helps you build muscle so that you have a higher resting metabolic rate. And everybody's different. But the main thing is finding what works for you. For me, it was, and I'll tell you, most of my adult life I've been on the pudgy side. When I was young, I was really obese. But as an adult, it's always like 10, 15 pounds overweight, which for a guy my size is significant. And because I was listening to what the idiots at the government were saying about the food pyramid and that we should eat 20 servings of grains.
Oh God, the food pyramid is just like eat white bread all day and have pasta, you know. And didn't people from your generation used to be like, well, I'd like this steak, but I guess I'll do the adult thing and have a big bowl of pasta.
Totally.
Isn't that what you guys used to
And then
do?
you'd eat the damn pasta and 5 minutes later you're starving because your insulin levels go through the roof and you're like ready to punch a clown and take his food. You know?
So what do you think is the right approach as a doctor in dealing with this?
I think the right approach is to listen to your patient, see what their diet is like, and you can quickly identify, okay, here are the problems. You're going to fast food. You live in a place where food is. You've been to difficult areas of this town, Tom, and you've shopped there. I mean, what did you notice in the stores?
Oh, well, I was telling you the other day before, every time I go into a gas station here in a poor neighborhood in Las Vegas, which particularly North Las Vegas tends to be our poor area, it's all sugary drinks. It's very hard to find. Like, I'm always drinking like diet vitamin water zero and this kind of stuff. I can't find one in these stores. And I know that that's a market factor that these are selling in the stores and that's why they're doing it. But where does that stem from? Is that patient education or what is that causes that?
I mean, we're talking about very deep roots, everything from the fact that these things are less expensive because of government subsidies on corn, et cetera, to big food doing some good in that they're trying to feed the world and some bad in that they're doing it in a way that's not particularly healthy. And by the way, I'm not a believer in all this GMO stuff. Like, I think genetically modified organisms are fine, but you guys can take a crap on me, but that's just what I think. And also some of the science supports. But the idea that in poorer areas there's poor access to good quality food is a real thing. We can improve it systemically. You can eat cheaply but real whole foods, and people have been doing that for millennia, right? But we have to work on it as a society. Now this is where I'm going to push some of my liberal instincts up and say, I think we can do better as a government and society to promote the kind of behaviors. Some people will say that's a paternalistic nanny state, but I actually think that sometimes we need that. We need a daddy who says, you know what, it's not okay to smoke, for example. And so the government puts a shit ton of taxes on cigarettes and does a lot of public education and makes it hard to smoke, and that's a good thing. It might be the same way with sugars and processed foods and low quality food, et cetera. Well, I want to read one comment before I forget. We also, Jamie Smith says, we also need to be careful that we're not giving them a crutch like it's my thyroid. I had a total thyroidectomy and I take medication, but it's not hard to maintain my weight. We need to be honest and tell them what will help them lose weight, diet and exercise. I agree. I think you can acknowledge that they've had struggles and that they may be disadvantaged relative to others in terms of thyroid or metabolic or whatever, genetics, but that does not give you a crutch or an excuse. It says you have to work that much harder. You have to push to lose weight if it's something that you care about.
Right, we talk about racial privilege in this country and economic privilege. There's also metabolic privilege and genetic privilege. There's a lot of this, right?
This is an interesting topic, Tom Heinever. Now see, You guys want to silence Tom? Come on. I would never think of the term metabolic privilege, but to me, now I'm thinking about it going, that is exactly like people who are like, I just complain about my sister.
Yeah.
So my sister, now listen to this story actually. I'm going to violate HIPAA.
Don't
No, I
admit
better
to
not.
it,
I better
Zig.
not. I better
Don't
not.
admit to it.
My sister, okay, has a medical condition that I'm seeing in the comments, many women are citing as a cause for their obesity. She is metabolically unprivileged that way, and yet was always thin as a rail. And there was something in her psychology and her relationship to food that she treated it differently. And later in life, because she had to go on medication, she gained some weight, but she still was quite thin. And so this idea of metabolic privilege and overcoming those impediments, it's a nuanced one, right? Some people are born, they can eat anything.
Oh, dude, how many of us have that friend that just eats whatever they want and they stay skinny as a rail, you know?
But here's the question, how many of us have secretly killed that friend? Driven up to Red Rock, hidden the body, and no one ever found out? I mean, how many of us have done that?
I've definitely wanted to. I feel like I got an unfair roll of the dice. And by that, I mean I got a fair roll of the dice. And if I eat bad foods, I get fat and I feel bad. And I want to eat bad foods all the time and feel great.
Tom wants metabolic privilege to go with his white privilege.
Exactly.
He wants both. You know, he wants everything.
I want whatever Keith Richards has got. I want that for myself.
He has the crack cocaine diet that just, you know, the more crack you smoke, the thinner you get. The thinner you get.
Christy Ann says, what are your thoughts about decreasing recess and free play in schools?
So, okay, listen,
How many hours a day do your daughters get for recess?
Not enough. And they want to be outside all the time. And even in spring when the eldest Z-Pup has horrible hay fever and allergies, she wants to go outside. And she'll come back snotty and like all puffy. And she's like, no, I love being outside. We should encourage that. And a healthy body correlates to a healthy mind on many levels. And the Greeks used to know this, right? The Spartans were all about athletics. The Athenians were all about intellect. But I remember my high school, it was a public school, and they called us Spartanians. They wanted to combine both of these best aspects, a healthy body, a healthy mind. They go hand in hand. Heather DC says, it's very hard to deal with being bullied or shamed. I just started wearing my glasses in public this year because I felt ugly for so long. Wow, Heather, I'm sorry to hear that. We all have our baggage, man. Like, I mean, if Tom can show a freaking clip of somebody on Facebook and make me somehow cry in front of 800 people, which I will never forgive him for. And when I watch this clip back, I'm going to be like, delete it. I can't believe that happened.
You know why I think her story went viral is it's so powerful because she's owning it and like she's like, what is it about her? There's something about her that you're just like, I don't know. It's just so powerful to listen to her tell her story. And you're like, yeah, you go, girl.
Yeah, you would think, is it pity? But it's not pity. It's because she owns it, so there's a strength there. She's willing to go, after crying, she's willing to go on a camera and say, this was my experience, and I'm just telling you so that you know what it's like. And I don't know, we all see in her what we want to see.
Colette Ray says, y'all are harsh on the drug seekers, but you defend obesity? What's
sorry,
the difference?
Hold on. Who's harsh on the drug seekers? We are harsh on the drug-seeking behavior. Was it Colette?
It was Colette.
Colette, we are harsh on the drug-seeking behavior. We are not harsh on the drug seeker themselves. And in fact, most of my videos and most of my conversation and most of the Z-Pack have agreed on this, that you hate the behavior, you hate the disease, you don't hate the patient. And you treat them with compassion and love, and they have a disease. Whether you think there's choice involved, whether you think it's genetic, whether you think it's unconscious, you know, no free will and they're victims, it doesn't matter. You treat the patient with compassion. And so when we make fun of drug seekers, we're making fun of that behavior, which we have to deal with every single day in the clinic when we're manipulated and lied to and treated like a pusher. And in many ways, we have to accept responsibility for partially creating the opioid epidemic, and we have to point at others who are partially culpable, like Big Pharma and Purdue, and talk about when we're asked to make a pain a vital sign, the fifth vital sign. Those things have all colluded to make it very harmful. HCAHPS and patient satisfaction, right? So
what about the people like Joanne McGrew who say, no, I'm so sick of political BS, we need to just tell the truth?
I think that's what we're doing here, right? Are we telling the truth?
Well, I think she means just tell people they're fat and that they need to stop eating so much.
Right. Well, and that's what we're discussing now. And if you think that's true, then that's one point of view. But you have to tell it in a way. There's many ways you can frame that information, and how we frame. Listen, one of the interesting things I found in the medical parody space, and Tom knows this because we hash this out in advance when we're writing lyrics or recording a video, is that it's not the message as much as how you deliver the message. And there are plenty of medical parodies that cross a line. It may be the same message I'm giving, but the way they deliver it is insensitive, or it's tonally wrong, or it's emotionally off, it lacks compassion, and it fails, or people jump on them and go, they're unprofessional. Whereas in my career, I can count on a hand how many times we've really been so controversial that we've crossed a line. And it's because we think about it. We actually don't just quickly act. We actually think it out. You can do the same thing when you're talking to patients about obesity, about drug problems, about all those things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly, right? And if we did one that was just, you're fat, you're fat, you're fat, you're fat, you're fat.
Yeah.
That's not funny or interesting or compassionate or anything.
None of those things.
It's just nothing.
Well,
right? And doesn't it make you feel like, all right, let's be honest. Doesn't it make you feel kind of good when you see somebody who's fatter than you, when you know that you're out of shape, and you go, at least I'm not that guy, right? And then somebody will tap you on the shoulder and be like, you're fatter than that guy by like a lot, man. I am? Yeah.
Well, yeah, we build walls of coping and denial around ourselves constantly. And that's one example, comparing yourself to others, et cetera. By the way, speaking of which, Richard Simmons has been missing for 3 years.
Yeah, I saw there's something about Richard Simmons in the comments.
Yeah. So Richard
You
Simmons,
have a video of him the last time he was seen, do you not?
Can I tell you guys the story about Richard Simmons? Actually, should we save it for another live cast?
Well, we should tease it out.
We'll
but what's
tease it
this
out.
video that you have about?
So when I did TEDMed in 2013, Richard Simmons was at TED and he was speaking, and I was charged with introducing him. Even though I was giving my own talk and I was terrified, I was charged with introducing, with the Surgeon General at the time, Regina Benjamin, introducing Richard Simmons to the TEDMed audience, and he was going to talk about fitness and changing people's lives, etc. And so I was backstage with Richard Simmons for a good 2 hours prior to his performance. And I will tell you, here's a guy, by the way, he looked great. He was thin, he looked athletic, but he was really like labile emotionally and very scared and terrified. And he kept telling me, Zubin, all these doctors are going to judge me because I'm not smart like they are, and who am I, and I'm going in front of all these smart people. And the degree of vulnerability and insecurity and sort of lability had me really worried. And I'm sitting there comforting Richard Simmons, going, no, Richard, dude, you're Richard fucking Simmons. Like, come on, dude, why are you scared? I'm nobody, and I've got to go give the final talk of the day. I talk about terror, right? But if he was having none of that. He was as terrified, if not more than I was. And then subsequently, he did a great job. He got everybody dancing. Regina Benjamin and I were like dancing like clowns up there, looking like total idiots. And he does that. Richard Simmons has that ability through expressing his own vulnerability to get other people to behave in a way that makes them vulnerable as well. That was the magic. Then he just poof after me. Gone.
Richard Simmons kind of leads into this comment by Susan Robinson because he kind of made it okay to work out at home for the first time ever if you felt uncomfortable going to a gym or something like this. Was before curves and all that kind of stuff. And Susan Robinson says the people who fat shame people at gyms are truly awful. They are trying to fix the problem, and you are discouraging that.
Absolutely. Like, you're going to fat shame someone at a gym? Are you crazy?
I have a friend who's like this, and they fat shame people at the gym because they'll see a morbidly obese person and be like, listen, it's all diet. That person doesn't need to be at the gym. It's a waste of time. And I was like, but it's good for... How can you knock somebody for doing the right thing? Even if it's not... Yeah, maybe it's not 100% effective, but they're doing the right thing.
Dude, you got to look at what's going on with that person, right? I mean, like, what's going on in that person's head that he or she thinks that's okay to do. But we see that all the time. We see it in culture. We see it in society. We see it in our kids, that this bullying idea is a thing. And again, it kind of brings it full circle to this idea of shaming. What's its purpose? Yesterday, we talked a little bit about shame in society being sometimes a good thing when used appropriately because of accountability.
I got a lot of shit because I said things like... you should feed your own children and stuff like that. I think that is a powerful shame motivator. Now, I did say like we should take your children away from you, which I have no plan for what to do with these children.
Right.
I just wanted to shame people.
And I think you were being provocative and you were trying to push this issue of shame, But I don't think you actually believe that deep
No,
down.
I don't. And
But-
that's why it came off insincere, because I was just being a dick to be a dick.
Yeah, which I enjoy, and I can see why some people would get butthurt. But the thing is, guys, this is a butthurt-free zone. If you're butthurt, come and have a conversation about why you're butthurt. But don't throw ad hominems at us or each other, because that's a kind of bullying in itself. And you know what? Honestly, let's be frank. We do kind of take it. When you guys are mean, we do kind of take it a little bit personally, because we're human beings. So let's try to be nice to each other, which is good. I mean, a little shame is good. I like to be shamed as much as the next guy. But, you'll find sometimes I'll strike out a little defensively. I'll do stuff because this is weird being a public thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you just cried on air.
Don't ever say that again. That is never going to happen again, Tom Heinever. I can't believe that happened.
You got really triggered by the clip.
I got triggered. Like, I'm always making fun of people for being triggered, and then the freaking clip, because you didn't show it to me beforehand. I would have had like an internal emotion beforehand, but sometimes when I'm trying to really feel the clip, and I was like, God damn it, and then I couldn't even figure out why.
Well, it just goes back to somebody said in the comments that you should call your brother tonight. Maybe you should call your brother, because you just put it out to Facebook.
I know. I thought about, actually, that was part of the thing I was thinking about when I was trying to recover from that. I was like, I haven't talked to my brother in so long, And we have this weird relationship, me and my brother, where, we don't really talk that much. Like, I feel like we have a damaged relationship that goes way back, and I feel like it's my fault, I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna do better. The thing is, it's hard.
Oh, dude, there are so many things that fuck with me to this day about things I did when I was a little kid.
Right.
Things I said, things
Right.
I did. I mean, I did truly awful things as a child, and I think we all do.
I think we all do. We feel
They
pretty
still
bad
mess
about
with
it.
me. This is why I can't smoke weed, because I'll get high and I'll be like, dude, in the 4th grade I was such a dick to Kimberly. I can't believe it. I'll never forgive myself.
Dude, you want to hear not a funny story. Okay, I think this is how we're gonna wrap, because I want to tell you this story, and then we'll maybe take a few more comments. When I was in 4th to 6th grade, there was a girl in our class who there was something about her that just triggered me. I hated everything about her in the sense that it triggered some kind of OCD reaction. So the way she chewed, the way she looked, the way she talked, the way she comported herself, everything about her triggered something in my unconscious elephant that made me, it was a compulsion. I had to say something to her. I had to say, oh, and mimic her, or I had to do something. And it was when I think back on it, I would think that I was the worst human being. Because later you get a bigger moral sense and you develop more holarchically this sense of moral, like what is right and what is wrong. And later in life, I realized everything I did to her was wrong and horrible and terrible. And here's the craziest part. When I got kind of famous doing the Z-Dog thing, she found me on Instagram.
Oh, really?
She found me on Instagram. And I knew it right away because I saw her name. She looked totally different. She'd lost a ton of weight. She had a kid. She had a family, all this other stuff. And she reached out on Instagram and then on Facebook and said, hey, remember me? You probably don't remember me. Like, I was your classmate in 4th to 6th grade at this elementary school, and I just love what you're doing now, and my family's in healthcare, and I just think you're doing great work in the world. And oh my God, dude. It's like, can you imagine the amount of shame that I felt? I was like, now what? I mean, so you know what I did? It took me like five writes, but I wrote her like this email where I was like, I am so sorry for everything I did to you when I was young. Here's what was going through my head at the time. It wasn't about you. It was my reaction and this weird OCD I had when I was a kid. And this is why I treated you the way I did, and I'm so glad that you've turned out to have this wonderful family, and you're such a composed person, and that you would reach out to me even though I did these horrible things to you.
And did she remember?
She said, we were kids, and it was weird. She let it go so quickly that it made me think I actually did hurt her more than she would say. But she let it go, and we stayed connected, and it was this huge monster had gotten off my back after all these years, right? Because you were saying you beat yourself up as the stuff you did as a kid. Like, imagine getting a chance to at least try to undo it. And if we're talking about shaming and bullying and all of this, like, there is redemption, right? Even if you feel like, you know, you were part of the problem, you can find redemption later in life.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And Donna Gardner says that Logan looks bored as hell.
Logan is never bored pushing buttons. That's
Logan's
what he
just
does.
trying to get out of here and get some carbs in his system.
Yeah, Logan.
What a steak, damn it.
I just fat shamed you, man.
And so we bring it full circle, dear Z-Pack, from Tom shaming to fat shaming to bullying to me regretting watching that clip live and never forgiving Tom for that.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to put out that clip of you crying as its own separate clip. Give me a bunch of likes right now, Z-Pack, if you want to see that happen.
I don't see any likes.
There's going to be a ton.
I don't see any likes.
Oh, there it is.
No! Now we got to do it.
Great. This is the next time an anti-vaxxer attacks me. Someone's going to put out the meme of me just crying.
You're going to be a meme.
That's going to be the meme. I'm going to be a meme of just,
Hey, remember when you were a little fat kid, Zubin?
Tom Heineber, I'm starting to
right.
agree with the haters. I'm starting to agree with the haters.
Let's wrap it up.
All right, let's wrap this. Guys, it's been real. Thank you for sharing this time with us. I'll go through later and look at comments. I'm sorry I couldn't answer that many. We were sort of deep in the game. Do me a favor. Go to iTunes. The link is all over Facebook. Also, if you go to zdogmd.com/incident-report, all our incident reports are there hosted on my website, and you can click through to our iTunes. Please give us a star rating and give us a review, preferably 5 stars if you can, so that we keep rising in the ranks of the podcast. Tom's going to do a better job. I haven't really edited the audio on those, but he's going to do a better job editing audio on those in the future so that you can listen to them on your commute or in the train if you don't have time to go through this whole cast. And it's a way of spreading this idea of 3.0 and the fact that we as care practitioners can have a voice together. And on that note, Tom Heineber, is there anything else I'm missing?
You know what? No.
No? We
It's
good?
always okay to show your emotions, Z-Dog. Anna Kolchinsky.
It is not, Anna. It is not, okay? It is not okay.
Jessica Pryor says feeling shaming. We're feeling shaming.
Yeah, you guys are feeling shaming me.
You feeling shamed yourself, man.
Dude,
Stand in your truth, bro. Stand in your truth.
I have brown privilege. That's all I'm saying. Hey, by the way, guys, today is Mrs. Dog's birthday, and we are going to go out to dinner at a cool Japanese restaurant. So if you don't mind, I would love to show her your birthday wishes. Leave in a comment a happy birthday wish to Mrs. Dog, and please thank her for putting up with me, because the fact that she's letting these two goons in my house on her birthday is hugely magnanimous. And on that note, guys, I think we are out.
Go, 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 go. I'm alright. Uh-huh.